So one of my favorite things about theater is how each single performance is an unreproducible event. In part, this is true because there's absolutely no way for actors to exactly replicate the same performance night after night. But to focus on the actors is only to tell half the story. The audience has a massive effect on how any given performance will play out. There's no energy sink like an audience that's completely unresponsive, and an emotionally energetic audience has elevated some of my good performances into great ones. To put it another way, what I love most about theater is that it feels like an exchange, a communion between the performers and the audience. It's partially why I find modern audience expectations, at least in America, so at odds with the root of theater. You sit in the dark, mostly in silence, and politely clap when the show ends. But no matter the attempt to keep them quiet, even a silent audience fills the space with an emotional resonance and informs that night's performance, whether or not they say a word. I don't think theater is theater without this communion. A group of actors in an empty auditorium might recite a play, but without an audience, it's not theater. Theater exists not in the performer or the audience member, but what is brought into existence when the two interact. When theater companies like mine, as of Neo Futurists, were forced to put planned shows on hiatus due to COVID lockdowns, a majority of companies pivoted to video. It seemed analogous, like a live stage show. Actors would rehearse, directors would direct, and the audience would see and hear the performance just like they were in an auditorium. But here's the thing. With video-only performances, there's no area for communion. My presence has no effect on the show. Video plays into the idea of theater audiences as passive observers, which runs counter to the realities of performing for a live group of people. This isn't to say I haven't enjoyed a great deal of solely video work or that I haven't made video work of my own. I have and I do. However, though it might be a performance, I don't think it's theater. So the question I have is, when producing remote or digital work, how can theater makers be more experimental with mediums to move closer to the audience-performer interplay that defines theater? To me, video games seem like an obvious place to look, since they're a medium that entirely relies on audience interaction. Without someone playing a game, it's just a bunch of inert code. Moreover, a game design reminds me a lot of writing for the stage. When I write a play, I'm writing it with the emotional experience of the audience in mind. What do I need to do on stage to get the audience to feel the thing that I want them to feel? Game design is like immersive theater. Need a player to feel tense? Put in a countdown timer. Want them to feel nervous? Have them walk down a narrow hallway. Need them to notice something? Shape the game environment, the digital stage, to move them towards the objective organically. Honestly, playing video games during quarantine felt much closer to theater than any video on demand recording of a play I've seen, because I get to both perform the piece by playing it and observe the game as it's being played. I was both the actor and the audience with the game itself as the script. But if you don't want to make a video game, or like me, don't know how to, there are plenty of other mediums that are ripe for experimentation. And this is where my actual work comes in. So earlier this year, I co-created the program with fellow experimental artist Ezra Reeves, a full-length show built on Twilio, a cloud communication platform used by corporations to build automated phone trees. When we began development, the US was in the midst of a huge COVID case spike and lockdowns had grown more stringent. Like many others, we both had a deep, aching desire to be around people. We felt that this desire was very much like trying to reach an actual person on a phone hotline, where you're fighting against an entire system designed to try and keep you from ever having to reach a live operator. In the program, audience members would call into a private line and were guided down a telephonic wormhole by a female-voiced automated assistant, one who promised that if they just answered a few more questions, they'd be able to reach a live operator. As the piece continues, the computerized voice grows more attached, more pleading, asking the user why they need an operator when they could just stay on the line here forever. Twilio allowed us to build in a great deal of interactivity into the audience member's experience. We were able to split the call based on user choices, providing unique experience for each audience member while keeping them along the same general story track. It played nicely into creating a perceived push and pull of who had control, the system or the audience member. At the end of the experience, the audience member was finally connected to a live performer. One of my favorite findings was that a number of audience members didn't believe that the live performer at the end was a real person. In one instance, the more the performer assured the listener that they were real, the more the audience member pushed back saying, that's exactly what a computer would say. But more than that, people just wanted to talk. They wanted to talk about their experience on the line, they wanted to call out, and they wanted to hear a response. Theater is more than just passively watching and listening to a performance. It's the experience of being in a theater with other people and knowing that the audience's presence is as integral to the onstage show. As theater makers, we do well to remember this core tenet of our chosen medium and learn lessons from others on how to invite this continued communion rather than trying to tamp it down. Huh.
Wow, that was a perfect timing.
Yeah, I apologize if I blazed through that. I talk quickly when I speak to other English speakers or other first language English speakers, so I hope that I didn't speak too quickly here.
No, I could follow it. It was really,
Great.
really interesting. Yeah, what you said indeed about how just a live stream video is with passive observers it's totally different than being in a theater and seeing your audience and also seeing them directly respond to it. Also sometimes find it difficult with this live stream website. Like there is a chat, but we are in a different environment and we don't see the chat, so we don't know like how many people are watching, how they respond. Right. So that's it's very difficult. I think that's one of the challenges to create this audience interaction with online things. What is the thing? What are things that you've learned about digital performances so far?
I mean, a lot of what you were saying, the video that was in the piece is actually from the SF Neo Futurists live digital show. So similar to what you've set up, we do have an online platform for our regular show. And when it was in person, it was called the Infinite Wrench. When it's online, it's called the Worldwide Wrench. But the website was built out by one of our ensemble members, Topher Lynn. And it is interactive in a similar way. There is a live chat. We have 30 hyper short plays. People can choose the order they want to see them in. But it is a little bit like yelling into the dark. Like you hope that people are there. But since it feels like there's just a giant screen in between us.
I just get through that someone's saying that they're smiling at the moment.
I wonder if it would be helpful. Like, we use emojis so much in text. I do feel like it's a nice way to at least communicate. But I guess the thing about digital work more than anything is it really has inspired me when I do move back to live work to leaning into the audience more. I like to have a lot of control over the environment as a theater maker. Like I like to know what's going to happen when. But it's reminded me that a lot of my favorite live theater moments were moments of chaos, like things that I didn't expect, things that went awry that I had to course correct. And I think that's harder to do in a digital space. But I do think that it has happened in digital spaces, like with the person at the end of the program who thought that the whole thing was completely automated, even when they were talking to a person. Yeah, there's a lot there that I think could be exciting for moving forward.
Yeah. A question from Talita. I'm curious about the audience reaction to the platform. Can you share more about this?
Sure. Are they? I guess I'm not sure if they're referring to the Neo-Futurists platform or the program. So I'll say both. As a Neo-Futurists platform, people have been really wonderful and responsive to, especially once we started to add more interactive features. That was a major component of our live show. So I think it was really enticing for other folks. For the program, being on the phone, most folks had not done a performance that was entirely over the phone. But the thing that I enjoyed about it is that the platform was more or less invisible. They were calling into a phone line, but they couldn't see it. They couldn't see the back end of anything. So what they experienced was a theater piece where their house was the stage. They're listening to a thing, they're having input, they are performing to a certain extent. And a number of times we called attention to their space too. So that was nice.
Was there also a link between their house and the story? What they hear for beautiful? Yeah.
Absolutely. So there were a number of times that they were prompted to discuss their space, to say where they were, to look around their space. And the final interaction with the performer involved a lot of discussions about spaces they were in. So it was a nice opportunity to build a theater environment without someone having to leave their home.
Yeah, interesting. Also that your house can change into a theater system.
Absolutely.
Space. Yeah. Last question by Doris Fritzi again. Why are you called Neo-Futurists? If you told this, I'm sorry, I missed it. Or is it
No,
just a cool
I'm
name?
I can absolutely shed light on this. So we are actually one of three neo-futurist companies in the US. The Chicago
Ah.
Neo-Futurists started in 1988. I believe New York started in 2004, and we're the babies of the companies. We started in 2013. The name itself is a reference to the Italian futurist art movement. I didn't choose the name. If I had to choose the name, I would have gone with Neo-Fluxus. Our work is a lot more, I think, informed by and linked to the like 1960s, 70s Fluxus movement in New York and everywhere. But I grew up in the East Coast, so I always say New York. But pieces that were drawing art out of everyday movements that were site specific, that were usually relatively interactive, and that kind of moved away from codified like institutions to showcase art. So we're very scrappy DIY, doing things very quickly with the materials that we have. So, we might be the neo futurists, but we're really informed by Fluxus.
Nice. And when are you starting with physical performances again? Like,
Oh, goodness. We don't have a date yet. We're still not sure. It's dependent on when the spaces that we perform in start opening back up. We're hoping the fall. But
yeah.
until then, we're going to keep producing digital work. We actually have a Pride show. So the US Pride is coming up. So if anyone wants to join, World Pride Wrench is
Yeah.
coming up at the end. And you can go to the SF Neo Futurist website. It's sliding
Yeah.
scale. Definitely recommend checking it out.
Great, great. I saw it on your website indeed. And Margarita is sharing a link to the website in the chat, actually. Thank you so much, Amy, for your
Thank you
presentation.
so much for having me.
Super
I'm so excited to hear the rest
interesting.
of the presentations.
Yeah. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.